Hi guys, today's video is going to be a bit different. We are doing a couch makeover. Woo! When I say we, I mean the whole family. I want to start with a disclaimer. This was a 2-day project that required not only sewing but other DIY skills and a lot of fabric. You might consider this if you are about to take on the same adventure. Let me tell you, our couch was in a really bad condition. We have had this couch for a bit over 2 years now, and the kids and the cat have pretty much destroyed it. I used to put on these covers to hide what I can, but as you can see, the overall look is far from great. The cushions were made from a plush fabric that catches a lot of dust and cat fur. There were broken seams everywhere. Mr. Fluffy did his things on each side. The kids have ripped out each and every decorative button, and I can't even count the stains all over it. Here is a close-up of some nail polish and ink examples. So, with both this beautiful canvas upholstery fabric that seems strong enough to endure kids and pets, it has this thick woven base that gives me hope it will last longer. To replace the upholstery, we had to separate the parts first so that we could cover the whole surface where there was fabric to be replaced. We decided to cover over the original fabric as this would allow us to reconstruct and do a bit less. As shapes and assembling would be different for every piece of furniture that you might be working on, I'm not going to go step by step over the process for this exact couch. I'm just going to go over what I think is the most important and useful to other DIY enthusiasts. First, make sure to keep track of the order in which you detached the parts. Filming the process might be a good idea so that you can come back to the video and check what was where later. For most upholstery refreshing projects, you're going to need a heavy-duty stapler and some stapler pins, some pliers, and possibly some other instruments to reassemble the couch. For example, here we used a screwdriver to take out the old stapler pins and some other instruments here and there. You are also going to need the right amount of upholstery fabric. Don't get just any fabric because it will wear off quickly and all the work you've put into this would be for nothing. Good upholstery fabric tends to be expensive, so I've spent quite some time calculating the exact consumption so that we don't buy much more than we need, but also have enough for the sofa and pillows as well. And guess what? I calculated for a specific width of the fabric, and we liked this particular fabric that was an inch more narrow than the width of the couch, so I had to recalculate in the shopping center and under pressure. It turned out to be just the right amount, so I'm kind of proud of this, We started by removing the countless stapler pins. Next, I had to figure out this shape here. The main part was just a big rectangular piece that was going around another smaller rectangular piece on each side. So I started cutting the smaller pieces first. I drew the dimensions on the fabric using this long metal piece to help me with the straight lines. Once I had the first piece, I used it as a pattern for the second one. I put it cross-grained to save fabric as my fabric allows for that. If you are using patterned fabric or some fabric like plush which changes the way it reflects light when you run your hand over it, make sure to keep the same direction of the grain. Then we moved on to the big piece. First, I made sure that the top is one perfect straight line, and then we measured down the length by marking several places so that we could be sure that the other side is even and straight as well. We also double-checked for 90-degree angles because once we cut, there is no turning back. I pinned the narrow side of the small rectangle to the beginning of the fabric and go all the way around. When I reach the corner, I hold it in place with one hand and transfer to the other side of the rectangle, and I continue pinning all the way around. I repeat on the other side. I hope that you can see how the shape of the cover starts to form. I'm moving it to the sewing machine and start by anchoring the seam at the beginning. I sew at 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance as my fabric is not prone to fraying. You can go for a bit bigger seam allowance if your fabric frays. When I reach the 3/8 seam allowance at the corner, I make sure that my needle is down and I lift the foot to turn the couch cover around and sew around the corner. Here is how my corners turned out. Next, we put the cover over and pin it around to keep it in place. And we would take a little break here and there, yet we still have a long way to go. We are here at this point. I think it doesn't look bad at all. When cutting for covers, I suggest you cut at the exact dimensions of the sofa plus seam allowance. Don't leave extra, as you would want your covers to fit tight like a glove to look good. We finished the sitting pieces and we are moving on to the backrest pieces. There is some shaping here that I'm about to figure out. Here is what I think is going on. It is one long piece of fabric that is folded in the middle to go over front and back, and it's sewn on the side with a good old side seam. When I make the side seam, I move on to the shaping at the top. I fold the cover at the top and move the seam to the center. It gets this triangular shape. I fold the seam allowance to one side and I'm about to make a seam at 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimeters below the edge. This way the cover will end up to be 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimeters wide. I go forward and back with a couple of stitches and anchor all my seams pretty well because I want them as durable as it gets. Here is how it looks on the face side. Time for a fitting test. Notice that I left some of the inside middle part uncovered with fabric. That's because there are several holes left on the inside for the bolts that are going to keep both pieces of the sofa together. We wanted them visible and easy to access later. Some final fixing and tightening. It seems that we are going to pull this together after all. Here is the moment of truth. And we're up to a well-deserved rest. We move to the other couch piece that has this odd shape, and the way I approached this is to go around it and draw it on the fabric so that I don't distort the shape. Then I cut around, leaving some seam allowance. I used this piece as a pattern for the mirroring side, and I also cut 2 8-inch or 20 centimeters wide stripes for this middle part here, to sew them together to form one piece that is long enough to go all around. The way I did it is to cut one of the stripes in half and sew it to both sides of the longer one. This way the seams are staying at the corners and not in the middle, which I think looks better. I think it turns out quite good, so I'm up to sewing the other side to finish this detail. As we are making our covers tight enough, you may or may not iron press the seams, and here is how this part turned out. Tucker pins, bolts, legs, and everything back into place. At this point, what is left to be done are the backrest cushions and the decorative pillows. These big ones were the harder to figure out. They are closed with a zipper that follows the rectangular shape at the bottom, which I need to replicate, and they also have 2 side pieces that give the 3D shape. And this is how I imagine they should be shaped. 2 mirroring side pieces curved at the top and one long piece that goes in the middle with the width of the cushion. I ripped the zipper from the original cushion covers to reuse them as they match in color with our new fabric. So first I'm going to pin one side piece to each side of the cushion cover. I start at the bottom, twist at the corner like I did with the couch covers, and go all the way around the side piece. I've sewn the parts of the cushion cover together and now I need to figure out the zipper closing at the bottom. But first I'm going to clip into the seam allowance at the curved parts so that the seams look nice and flat on the face side. I'm going to start by pinning the beginning of the zipper to the bottom face sides together. I'm going to twist at the corners and continue to the end of the opening. I would usually align the zipper tape to the edge of the fabric, but here I have this fraying selvage that I don't want to show on the face side, so I go a bit in. Then, using the zipper foot, I sew this side of the zipper to the cushion cover. To go as close to the coil as possible, I move the zipper pull out of the way by lifting the foot with my needle down. Then, when I reach the corners, I put the needle down and change the direction of the fabric. Then I sew this side of the zipper to the cushion cover. To finish the cover, I have to pin and sew the other side of the zipper to the other side of the opening. I do that with the zipper closed so that both sides match and don't get twisted when sewn. When I'm done pinning, I open the zipper so that it is easier to sew and go around the other side. Last, I'm going to make the small cushion covers. I'm going to use invisible zippers for these and I already have the cushion cover cut. It has a square shape, so instead of cutting the equal squares, I cut one rectangle that is the size of two squares and fold it in the middle. I start by pinning the invisible zipper to the middle of one side of the square and then the mirroring side. I pin it face sides together. I sew the zipper in place first and then finish the seams on both sides of the zipper. I'm using the invisible zipper foot and putting the coil in one of the zipper grooves so that I sew as close to the coil as possible. I also use my fingers to flatten the coil even more as I go so that I sew closer and the zipper is showing less on the face side. By the way, I have a couple of step-by-step invisible zipper tutorials on my channel that I will link to below if you're interested. I sew the other side as well. I like to close the zipper to check if I did okay. I think so, so let's move on and finish the rest of the cover. I start at the end of the zipper. I align both sides and pin them in place. I'm not closing the zipper as the zipper pull is going to stand in the way. I start sewing at the end of the seam for the zipper and go all around until I reach the fold where I anchor the seam. Then I repeat the same with the other side of the pillow cover. Here is what it looks like. I'm so happy to have these decorative pillows done, as they are the last thing I had to do to finish this 2-day-long sofa upcycling project. So this is our old new sofa. I used to hate it and now I love it. It gives me totally different vibes, and despite all of the hard work involved, it was also much fun. We all love our new couch, and as we all participated, I hope we are going to be a bit more careful around it. And when I say we, I mean the kids, as I don't have a lot of hope for the cat. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found some inspiration in this video to do it yourself. Let me know what you think, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye!